Quick look at the rebuild kit. It comes with idler screw, rebuild, gasket, float needle rebuild, needle jet, emulsion tube, main jet, pilot jet, emulsion main jet washer, and main air jet. Or it doesn't come with the main air jet, it comes with a pilot air jet and a pilot main jet or pilot jet. So this is the first time opening the carburetor after it's been sitting for a long time. The guy said that it was running before it sat, so it'd be a real surprise to see what it looks like after sitting for a long time. There's a lot of aged gasoline, really gummed up or tarred up, and it's really dark. So these parts are supposed to be the color of brass and the aluminum. Every dark buildup will have to be cleaned and replaced. And the float should move up and down freely. It's kind of frozen in place just from the aged gasoline. Removing the gasket cover, seemed like it was actually in really good condition. And it fits on only one way. There's a post in the top left corner of the carburetor, and it can't be reversed. So usually that's like the first thing people check if they're buying a used bike that's been sitting for a long time, is just a carburetor rebuild, especially if the bike has been running previously and was running before it's parked. So you kind of know that it still has life in it and potential to be rebuilt, but definitely needs a little bit of work, a little bit of good energy to be brought back to life and be roadworthy. So that was the bottom of the carburetor. Now to get to the top would be the diaphragm for the vacuum or the air jets. There's a large spring. Kind of reminds me of Jello or something. And then diaphragm, you definitely don't want to spray any carb clean without disassembling the carburetor completely or at the best of your ability, because carb cleaner will damage any rubber or O-rings or diaphragms. Especially what would happen is that it would cause the rubber to expand and become out of spec, and then also stiffen. So I spray carb cleaner all over the bottom of the float of the carburetor, knowing that I'm going to replace a lot of the parts there with the rebuild kit. And the only part to watch out for that wasn't removed was the float needle. there's an O-ring that seats it from the carburetor bowl, which makes it difficult to remove later on. And a quick cleanup with some rags and some tools, you can kind of remove. It comes up pretty easily after using carburetor cleaner to break it down. The next thing is to remove the pin holding the float, and then the float should just pull up with the needle. This one is especially stuck with the buildup. The needle should come out with it, but it was so far stuck that it got stuck with the filter underneath it. Especially with spraying carb cleaner on it, the O-rings kind of overexpanded and kind of jammed itself together. Just doing a quick cleanup. The bowl was full of dark tar or gummed up, so it's cleaned up really good. Nothing special, just the cheapest bottle of carb cleaner in the parts store. Especially if I know I was going to use 4 or 5 bottles. And the top of the diaphragm with the air jet, replacing the main jet and the pilot air jet on the top, and the bottom here where the float bowl, trying to remove the main jet, pilot jet, and the float needle with the filter. See, this is what I'm talking about with the carb cleaner causing the O-ring to expand. Cleans up really easy. Just needed 3 or 4 carb cleaners on hand. So this is after it's cleaned up and reinstalling the post. It only goes in one side. Really good design and manufacturing there. Yeah, this is the original needle.
Carb cleaner makes O-rings expand.
It's kind of out of spec.
This one looks way out of spec now.
What happened here was the pilot jet got stripped, and I had to buy a bit extractor or screw extractor, also had to buy a tap and die set for the T-handles.
I ended up fishing it out with the number 3, but I started with the number 1 initially. So initially I started with the number 1. You can see how it doesn't have that much grab. Your pilot jet is stripped or seized inside the bearings. Look at that. Crazy amount of buildup. So I went with the size 1. I ended up drilling like almost through all of it, so I was worried about that. I ended up switching to the size 2. Size 2 looks like it could have worked, or the size 1, either way, because the length of the pilot. But the 3 ended up being the go-to. What's not included with this is the T-handle. So I ended up buying this tap and drill set for $40 just to use the T-handle. So it looked something like this. So have the tap set up like that. Fits good on number 3. Instruction says to tap it down twice with the hammer and then turn counterclockwise as the threads are reversed. So as you spin it counterclockwise, it digs deeper into it. But the thing about this T handle is that it doesn't fit the number 1 size. So the number 1 keyway was too small. I tried using the mini handle, I guess. And I guess it could work this way. If you could tighten it down tight enough. It works okay on the number 2. I think actually the number 2 is actually too big. So this would work for the number 1.
So the tough thing about the gasket rebuild was that it was pretty tight on the clearance near the float needle pin, but it still fit, so I just kind of forced it in place. I guess it will seal fine. I've been running it for about 2,000 miles, no problems. The biggest problem I had with this rebuild kit was that the main jet was too small, and I've had trouble accelerating past like 50 miles per hour or around 4,000 RPM because I installed an aftermarket tack gauge. What would happen is that it would act as if I was running out of gas. So like if you left the petcock off and you were kind of just riding, the bike would kind of like push and pull or kind of cut off, but still run for a little bit. What I did to solve this was I just took a 1/16 drill bit and bored out the main jet, which solved all my problems. And that's the biggest tip I have if you buy this rebuild kit for this bike, is bore out the main jet to 1/16 if you're at sea level, and then also try to avoid using carb cleaner on the carburetor without disassembling everything, because a lot of the O-rings could get messed up if you're going to reuse them, like the idler adjust airfill screw, idle adjust screw has an O-ring in there. There's also a diaphragm in the TEBE, which controls like the backfire or the cutoff diaphragm, and also especially with the main diaphragm on the top with the air jets, the main air jets and pilot air jets. That diaphragm could be easily damaged by really harsh chemicals in the carb cleaner or brake clean.
Alright. Now we have a easy board. 1/16 jet. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.